If your customers send quote requests to you by email and you're still copying and pasting that into your CRM, there's a better way. In this video, I'll show you how I automated the entire quote building process using Relay.app and Airtable. And it includes AI that matches products based on what the customer requested to your product database. It all starts with a single email and ends with a fully built quote ready to go. Let me give you a quick overview of what we're building, then I'll walk you through each piece step by step so you can do it yourself. Let's go. Welcome back. I'm Zack from InnerDev Solutions. We help businesses streamline their processes using custom no-code tools so you can focus on what matters most. To learn more, you can visit our website, innerdevsolutions.com, or use the link in the description below. We're going to need two tools, Airtable, and we are going to need Relay.app. If you do not have either of these accounts already, you can get started for free using the link in the description below. You can integrate with a lot of different tools. A similar workflow will be relevant here, but the exact steps might differ a little bit depending on the tool that you're using and the way that it is structured. But still, even if you don't use Airtable, Relay is going to be the main focus here. The similar workflow will be relevant. First thing here, I'm just going to give a walkthrough of what this workflow is going to look like, and then I will show you how to build it. And I will also show you the setup I have in Airtable that will give you a rough idea of what we need. The full workflow is when an email lands in your inbox. Now I'm actually going to have it trigger only when a label is added so that when I receive an email, I can choose if it needs to be set up as a quote or not. When that label is added, it will start this workflow and trigger it. Extract the contact and line items. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look for the contact in Airtable based off of the email address it was sent from. And then we're going to use a AI step to extract some additional details, specifically the line items. If it doesn't find the contact, it's just going to leave it blank when it enters in the actual quote. And then later on, we're going to give the user an option to say, let's create a new contact because they don't exist yet. Or if it just didn't find it based off of some reason, you'll be able to manually assign the contact based off of the information that the AI extracts from the email. We're going to create a quote record, and then we're going to loop through the extracted items, use AI to try to map based off of the product description in your product database. It's not always going to be exact. So again, you're going to need some sort of human review element at all times here. But if it can find it, it will add that quote line item to your quote. And then even if it doesn't find the product, it will still add the details that it has based off of the quote request. And I'll show you what all that looks like in more detail shortly. I'm going to jump into Airtable quickly. There's a few tables we don't need here, but really simply, I have a contacts table, a company table, then I have a quotes table and a quote items. So those are the line items that belong to the quote. And we have our products here. Obviously, it could be a lot longer than this. And again, every business, every company might be a little bit different on how they need to structure things. I'm just trying to give a broad example to how it can work to different businesses. And then locations and activities, we are not going to worry about that today. I'll look into contacts, name, email. Those are the main things. And then links to the company. Same thing on the company side. What really matters here is it links back to contact. But again, that doesn't really matter that much for this video. Quotes. We have a quote that has a link to a company. Contact. We have a date for the quote. We have an amount, which is a roll up of the quote items. We have the quote items link here again, because each quote is going to have a number of line items. This quote email / notes. All I'm going to do is just within the automation, paste the email that we receive in here just for additional reference for your users. I'm going to add in the URL as well, and then some contact details that we extract. And you can add as much or as little as you need and what's relevant, but this just gives you an idea of what's possible with the system. Quote items, it's got a link back to a quote first off. If you do have a products table or base that you want to link each line item to, then obviously we need to link to your products here that I previously showed. We have quantity, And then there's a few different unit prices here. A unit price, this would be a manual entry override. This is just a lookup from the product. So if we do happen to link it to a product and we want to use a price that exists here, we can do that using this lookup. And then this just gives total price, simply unit price times quantity. And we can have some notes or whatever, but that doesn't really matter either. This gives you high level what we're looking to accomplish. I'll jump back into Relay. What we're going to do, we need a trigger. Very first thing, I use Gmail, so I'm going to go to Gmail. You could use Outlook as well. And I'm just going to select the Gmail application. And then we're going to go down to label added to thread. And I'm just going to choose my quote demo label. And I've already created an email and sent it to myself so that it's relevant for this video. I'll just show you quickly. It's really simple. Can you provide a quote for the following items? And I provided the quantity and just a brief description of the name. From here, we can select our label, which in this case is quote demo. We can add additional filters if we want, but I'm not going to worry about it. And we can see that it did find my quote email that exists within that label. I can hit done, and now we can move on to our steps. Now that we've triggered our email or set that up, we can go into the next steps. And in this case, again, there is no right or wrong way. My first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try and find the contact based off of the email address. And now I've already set it up. I have a contact here that has an email address linked to the email that I sent myself. And obviously, like I said, if it's a new contact or one that you do not have in your database already, you can set up additional steps to add the contact automatically. We're not going to worry about that. So I'm just going to click add step. I'm going to search Airtable. Again, if you have not connected Relay to Airtable yet, then you'll have to go ahead and do that. It's pretty straightforward. You'll just search for the app, click Airtable, and then it walk you through the connection or authentication process. I'll click Airtable here. I'm going to find records, and now I need to go find the database or the base in Airtable called quote automation and the contacts table. Now I've got the contacts table here. I only want to return one single record, and the filter in this case is going to be based off of an email address, which is this field right here. And then we want to match it up to the thread. I'm going to go down to messages, first message that comes in, and from email address here. Now we have a couple options. If no records are found, we're just going to continue without a result. We still want it to add the quote. It just will not link to a contact, and we'll be able to handle that later on. And if more than one contact is found, this is up to you. It shouldn't do that based off of email addresses, but you could pause the run and send a notification to yourself. I'm just going to have pick the first one because it really shouldn't do that. We can give this a test, but I'm pretty confident that it's going to find the contact. So I am just going to move on. I'll just hit done. Now, here's the next step, and this is going to be an AI step. There's a few options, but I'm just going to go down to a custom prompt, and you can play around, and I highly recommend playing around with different models to see what's the cheapest and what will fit your specific needs and how complicated the data is that you're trying to parse and extract and just find different inputs and outputs for. Basically, I'm just going to find and use GPT-5 for this tutorial and this demo. And I already have a prompt that I've played with and tested. The prompt is really going to vary for each individual user. It's something that I highly recommend testing over time and improving as you go. In my case, it's going to be really simple. There's not a whole lot that I'm looking for in our use case. And honestly, this probably isn't the best prompt, but it actually does work for this specific use case. Just telling it to extract some key details from the quote request email. Just looking for the email address and the domain name. And to be honest, we don't even need that for this specific tutorial, but I just wanted to add a few extra options to show you what is possible. And then this is the important one. And I'm looking for specifically an array or a list of line items based off of what was sent in the email. And then within each item, I just want the quantity and the item. And this auto generate really helps. It will build out your structure for you. You may have to fine tune it a little bit, but most of the time it's pretty much spot on. This will work for this tutorial. AI has access to the record here. This is something that I want to change. I actually want to hit X and change the data from the previous. I want to go down to thread, and I want to provide the whole email or whole thread to the AI so it can give it as much context as possible. Now, the next step, I'm going to go in and we are going to add the quote record. That's this table here. We will just add the shell. I will go back into Relay, search up Airtable, and we will add a record to a table. In this case, it's in quote automation and then quotes table. Add quotes, and then we will add some fields. You can use this auto suggest, but I'm just going to go through and add them manually because it's pretty straightforward. I will add company, contact, date. I'm going to add the quote email and the URL, and maybe even the contact details will add in as well. These are all the fields that I want to fill from previous data. I can now go into the company. So step 2, where we found the contacts. So if it found the contact, we will add in the company that it's linked to. We will add in the contact that it found. Again, it will leave it blank if it did not actually find a contact in step 2 here. Date, this can be any number of things. I'm just going to use the current date and time. Quote email, this is just going to be from the thread. I'll go down to messages and I'm going to combine from all elements. I'll just paste in all of the body into this field. Email URL, same thing, down to the thread here, and we'll go thread URL and then contact details. This can come from the AI step, and this can just be, we'll use the email address in this case. So now we have the first 4 steps or trigger and 3 steps set up here. Now we can go to the iteration step, loop step, whatever you may want to call it. So I'll just click a new step. I'll search up loop. We'll loop over a list and we'll pass the list from the AI output, which is line items. And so now once this AI step has run and found all of the line items, it's going to create an array or a list for us. And now we want to perform a number of steps on it. There's a few things that we want to do. The first thing, we are going to use an AI agent step to look for, and again, this is only important if you actually have a products table that you want to link your quote line items to. If you don't have those and everything's manual, you can just jump right into creating or adding quote items. But I'll show you how to use this AI agent step. I'll go into here, we'll choose AI, scroll down to the bottom, and we'll select agent here. In this case, the AI has access to the line items. That is correct. That's what we will pass to it. And I also want to include a tool. So connected apps, and we're going to go up to Airtable or whatever location your products exists in or your products table exists in, and then we'll find records. And again, I'll have to go select my table, which is within the quote automation and Airtable and the products table. We can choose the fields that we want the AI model to look at. I'm actually going to change the maximum records to just 1 and be specific. Select which fields AI can use. And I'm just going to choose product name, SKU, description. That should handle everything we need. I'll hit save, and we can see now that it has access and will find records in our Airtable database or table. I'm going to pass in another prompt here. Again, this is where you can spend a lot of time. It's going to be unique to your specific business. Basically, all I'm saying is you're going to help match product descriptions from the customer email to the products table in my database. I just gave it a goal and some context as well. And then here's the field output that we're going to have. And there's actually one thing that it missed, and I want to add in the record ID. So I might go in and choose record ID as well, hit save, and then I will on the right side here turn off this auto generate and go text and put in record ID. I can hit save, and I'm just going to use GPT-5. It seems to work okay for this. I'll hit done. And now hopefully, as long as we got this set up correctly, it should find, based off of my sample email, all of these do already exist within my products table. As long as the AI agent listens and responds correctly, it should find and link all of the products. Anyway, I'll move on. Within the loop step, we now actually have to, if it was successful in finding the product, and again, this is going to happen and run for each individual product requested for the quote, we need to find the actual product within Airtable now to be able to add it to the quote itself. We're going to find records. Again, I need to go into the products table. So we'll go quote, products, single record, and the filter will be based off of the record ID. And we want to make sure it's exactly from the AI output, the record ID. And now I'm just going to continue without a result if it does not find it, and then set up to pick the first one. And one other thing, if we go up, click the three dots here, we're going to add a condition, and we want to only execute this step. And we'll add a rule if AI output. And actually that reminds me, I missed one other thing. We're going to go add output yes, no. We're just going to label this found and add some context. Set this as yes if item is, and I change this, if record is found. And we can save this. I'll hit done. And now I can go back into step 7. I'll go into the conditions. If I select that, scroll down to the bottom, we'll add the rule now. If found is yes, then this step will run. If not, skip it. We'll hit done. And now the next step that we're going to add is actually adding in the quote item. Within Airtable, we're going to add a record to a table. And this time we're going to use the quote items table. And let's try this auto suggest and see what happens. Now it looks like it has correctly identified here that we're going to add each of these line items that it creates to the original quote we created, which is correct. The product step, it's going to link it if it did find a corresponding product. It's going to add in the quantity notes. This is under additional notes. And I just need to take a look here to see what they found. And we're actually going to pass in the product name in this case. So I just want to backspace that and go into product name. We'll add a field, unit price override. We'll leave that blank. We can handle that manually. So I'll hit done. We'll give this a test run now based off of this quote. So again, we're going to look for 4 items and see what happens. We'll start this run. And because there's multiple AI steps, it will use a fair number of credits. It will take some time to go through and process everything. It doesn't really matter that much because it's all going to be automated in the back end. Once that label gets added to the email, things will just happen. And then at a maybe further step, you can set yourself up a notification. When it's all done, you can get a notification to say, hey, new quote has been added. Time to review, something along those lines. The automation is still running. So far, all the steps have been successful. It has added one of the line items and actually found an associated product. So all in all, it seems like things are working correctly. If I go into Airtable here, we can see that it added the quote for us. It added the company and contact date. It's got the roll-up field based off of quote items working correctly. You can see it's added now 4 quote items, and it passed in the rest of the information that we asked it to. We can even see the email right in line with quote. If we go quote items, we can actually see that all 4 items were added to a quote, and they were all linked to the product based off of our products table, which is really cool. Added in the quantity that they requested based off of the email. We have an opportunity here to add in a price override if the products table is not correct or up to date for this particular customer. You can just add that in here. Let's say this was actually just $100. We can see that the unit price will update. It's just a simple formula, just using an if statement saying use override if it exists, otherwise use price. And then we've got the total price here, and I just added in some additional notes. And the benefit of adding in the notes is if, for example, it didn't find an actual linked product, then we can also still see what the customer was asking for. That's really cool that it worked first go for us. To be fair, I did do a little bit of testing beforehand, but it went pretty seamless. That's one nice thing about Relay is it seems to work really well. Probably is worthwhile spending time on your prompts and testing out different models to try to bring down the cost of your credits. There's a few additional steps. I'll go back into the editor, and I'm not actually going to go in and add these, but if I click this, there's a human in the loop option. What you could do if maybe a contact wasn't found, you could set up a human in the loop step to send you a notification if the contact wasn't found. Say, hey, contact wasn't found. Do you want to create a new contact based off of the email that was sent to you and use that data? Or do you want to manually go in and either add it or assign it yourself? Because maybe the contact does exist, it just didn't find it for whatever reason. And then with that being said, you could also add in the step after that to say, if we go into Airtable here, we could add a record to a table and add it to the contacts or company table to add in a customer based off of data from this email if they're new or not in your system yet. There is a lot more that you can do with it as well, but this should give you a pretty high level overview of what's possible. And this is relatively advanced and gives you a really good starting place to automate your process from email to an actual quote within your system. And the best part, or the really cool part, is it actually goes and finds products that exist within your table already so that it can link them to your quote items. Overall, Relay has some really cool stuff going on. Airtable does as well. So using these tools together is super powerful. Like I said, you can get started for free with both of these platforms so that you can test some things for yourself to see if it is going to be worthwhile for you. And there's links in the description below for both of those. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for more tutorials in the future.